right. Welcome back to Have Medium. Thank you so much to every listener. I love you so much. I know that you clicked on this episode because you saw the title. And today we will be talking about astrology with JJ Constellation. And you guys absolutely loved our episode when we talked about tarot. And the thing about JJ is she has many talents. She can talk about astrology, tarot, Reiki. She makes candles. Like JJ knows a lot. And so she was so gracious to come back for another episode to talk about astrology. And we will try to get into as much as we can. She let me know it's a very broad topic. So we will share as much as we can on this episode. Who knows? There may be another astrology episode. But again, thank you, JJ. Welcome back to Have Medium. We all love you over here and really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to come back and to share. And I'm glad to hear that everybody loved our episode. And of course, I'll be back whenever you invite me.
Yeah. When I look at, I try my best not to look at the numbers and get caught up in that.
Yeah.
But I see it. And that episode, people absolutely loved it. So
Oh,
yeah,
that is amazing. I
yeah,
love to hear that. Yes.
yes, for sure. Okay, well, we can jump into my first question, which is what piqued your interest in astrology?
I'm glad you asked that question because I had to sit down and be like, where did it all start? Because I haven't revisit that memory. And it all started with my dad.
Oh,
Everything. I don't know if you noticed a theme. Everything starts with my dad. It was when we were very young, it was a family tradition to watch an astrologer and a Spanish TV news, which his name was Walter Mercado. And so
mm,
he did daily horoscopes. And it was tradition. Like it was something that as soon as we came home from school and my dad from work, it would kind of be like, Shh, he's on, Walter is on. And so we would listen to the horoscope and my dad would be like, you're a Libra. Remember that, just like me. And I'll be like,
oh,
oh, okay. But I didn't know what that was. So that's where everything started. And my dad also as an astrologer, because he does read astrology and he does read natal charts as well. He also started telling me a little bit, but then I had to do my own research because I didn't live with my dad all the time. So I had to kind of go on my own with that. But yeah, that's where it all started. Mhm.
wow. That's so cool.
It
I
is.
love, like, first of all, like the family time watching the horror
Yes.
on television. Like a lot of people don't have that story, so that's pretty dope. It's almost like a setup to what you would later become, which is
Yes.
the thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was amazing because it was definitely bonding time and it was just something we can do together and just really enjoy it. And it was a sacred family ritual for sure. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. And it just shows like how we, even sometimes if our parents make us nutty, we are born into our families for a reason, right? So
Absolutely.
like we get those moments, with getting glimpses into what we will create or work with, later down the line. So that's so dope that it started with your dad. I love that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's a fun memory to have as well. Yeah.
So when you ventured out to do your own research, did you like look at books or more?
Um, More along the lines of I started visiting, what are they called? Botanicas?
Mhm.
Botanics. So to get readings and then just basically everything online through YouTube as well. But no books till now that I've recently have looked into like tarot books and astrology books, but no, not at the beginning. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just basically like everybody else, being curious, looking up at your chart and online and starting there. Yeah.
Cool. You know what? This is such a, like how you said, a memory was unlocked with your dad talking to you, because I kind of started to reflect on some glimpses that I got into it. And I just remember a friend of mine that he knows anything and everything about every zodiac sign. And he had this huge book that he would bring out, usually at parties, and he would say, "Oh, you were born on this day at this time, so this means this." And he would even go as far to say, like, it was like, "Oh, my back is hurting. What's going on with the Aquarius today?" Like, he is the first person that would connect body parts to the zodiac. And I was like, what? Oh, I got a headache. Those Geminis. Is it Gemini season? It's Gemini season. I get a headache every Gemini season. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know the connections of the body parts and the zodiacs, but um he would always talk about that, and I completely forgot. So now I get to why astrology can be very extensive. I get why you
Oh,
let me know.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's so much to it. It's something like tarot. It's never
Yeah.
ending learning. And it's really fun. I'm that friend that has all my friends' charts in like an app, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I'll be like, "Oh, okay, hold on. Let me look at your chart real quick." And then I would like be like, "Okay, this is what's going on." Yeah.
Oh wow. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
And and my friend, he's a Libra too. So maybe that's a thing. I just thought
It
about
can
that.
be. It can be. We're very social butterflies for sure. Mhm.
Oh, very interesting. Cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. You unlocked the memory in me. Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I will go to my next question.
Mhm.
So just if you could share about the basics, like sun, moon, rising, and let's see, what else did I have? Like how to find them and what they can tell a person about
Yes.
themselves.
So we have the basic planets, the personal planets, right? So that's the sun. And everybody has a sun sign. Everybody has a moon, a Mercury, a Venus, a Jupiter, a Saturn, a Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto sign. The sun lets us know our identity. This is our ego. This is the sense of self. And this is our confidence level. Now, if we're talking about the moon is our intuition, is our instinct, but it's also our emotional needs. And it also lets us know it's that part of us that not a lot of people get to see. It's the most private part of us. Only those that are real friends can see that moon sign. Unless
Mm,
they have it like on other planets in the same sign, then you're able to see
okay.
some of that energy there. Mercury is our skills. Mercury is how we gather information, how we process the information, and how we communicate. Venus is our money, it's our relationships. In a man's chart, it can represent who he's attracted to, the type of woman that he's attracted to. That would be the
Oh,
Venus. Mhm. Their art style, how they love to decorate their home as well. That's Venus. Mars is our energy. Mars is how we take action. How much energy do we have? And it's also our sexual expression as well, how we are in bed.
mm, Mars.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
In-
very interesting.
Okay.
Uh,
So it's like we have like for all the planets, we have something with all the planets. Did I say
yes,
that?
we do.
Did that
No,
make
yes,
sense?
we do. Yeah, it does make sense. No
Okay.
worries. Yeah, no, we all so we all have these planets in our chart. And based on what sign it is in, this is how we express it's the language that this planet takes. And this
Okay.
is how we communicate that energy. So Jupiter is the husband in a female's chart. It
Mm.
is our abundance. It is our luck. It is our optimism as well. It is also has to do with wisdom and expansion. In Saturn energy, this is limitations. These are the rules. This is where we need to be more disciplined and more structured. So wherever Saturn is in your chart, for example, that is where you're going to feel the most limitations, or where you need to be more structured is going to require you to put in more work.
Mm.
So example is in the sixth house, and this has to do with your day to day. Your routines might be something that you need to be structured about.
Oh.
If it's in your seventh house, as well, structured in relationships, contracts with others, things like this. Then we have Uranus, and Uranus is your breakthroughs. Uranus is that sudden event. So going
Mm.
back again, if we have Uranus in your sixth house, because I think that's the more relatable, which is your routines. your health. Then if you have Uranus there, then you're going to have your routines going up and down all the time. Nothing, like, it's always changing. It's
Okay.
always, there's no stability there, or there's always a curveball, or your health, my unexpected health situations might come up. Then we have Pluto, Pluto's transformation, Pluto's control. Pluto is death and rebirth as well, and its power. So
Mm,
where Pluto is, this is where you're going to want to control the most. And this is a part of your chart that is going to be transforming the most.
okay.
Then we have Neptune, and Neptune is our dreams, our imagination. And then we have the North and the South node. The North node is where we want to go. It's where our soul wants to grow, to move into that energy, to grow and expand. Then we have the South node. That is our past life. That is what we're comfortable with. But because we already are comfortable with that and we have learned it from past lives, that's why our soul pushes us to the North node, because we want to grow and it's definitely out of our comfort zone. That's why
Mhm,
we hesitate, and it's easier for us to stay in our South node because we're comfortable there.
mm,
Our rising sign, to me, that is the soul. Every astrologer has different interpretations for that. But the rising sign is that moment that your soul came in here on earth, and that is where everything starts. So your soul here is the one that is, you're growing into that, because some people, you might, like, personal experience, I never resonated with my Leo rising because
mm,
I consider myself a very shy person, or not even a creative person to say the least. And I was like, why am I having a hard time identifying with my rising sign? And it's because your soul, what I've gathered through my research and my observations, is we come to learn to embody our rising sign most
mm,
of the time. And so that there, it defines our physical appearance. It defines our view of the world, our lens in which we see our soul journey here in earth or on earth.
mm. That's interesting because I look at you as a very creative person. With like the different pick a card topics. Um, and then even like selecting specific cards to use, just the, I don't know how to explain it, but that and then the candles that you create, like that's very interesting that I see creativity like through and through and the success. And then creation is not just like you create something every single day on Instagram when you share those messages. Not a lot of people would have the energy or the mind to sit with the cards and with spirit, because I know it doesn't just come from the cards with you, it's intuitive. A lot of it I feel is just straight channeling, but the cards are a good tool for other people to see the energy, but you're to me, you're like a mega creator. Um, but I hear you.
Yeah,
I'm a
and I
Leo.
think, oh, sorry, go ahead. You're a Leo rising?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So we share the same rising sign. Did you always identify with the Leo rising? Like, is that something that you, when you read it, you were like, oh, yes, I'm that?
Um, I think eventually when I first was introduced to it, I didn't know what it meant. Basically, for most of my life, I was first told that I was a Leo rising by my mother, and I probably was a kid or a teenager or something when she told me. Um, and I just was like, okay. And that was it. I didn't know anything about it. But as I learned about it, because I remember seeing something in recent years where they mentioned Leo risings tend to have like big hair or a lot of hair. And that I have. Like I've cut it all, a lot of it now,
Yeah.
but I still have a lot even after cutting my hair. Um, so I was like, okay, I get that. But I am also, I get what you mean. I'm a very shy person. In my regular everyday life, there are very few people who see my full personality, who even like I've mentioned you guys before this episode, I created the funny video for TikTok and Instagram. But business wise, people have not seen that side of me like be really funny and loose. But those who are close to me know that I can be really funny. But a lot of people in my life, though, that if we're not close, they're like, Dinah, you never talk. Like you never say anything. Like they think I'm this big mystery. Like
What is your moon sign?
Sagittarius.
Oh, interesting. That is interesting because Moon and Sagittarius, you would think there would be a lot more, it would come a lot more easier for you to express yourself and like to be out there and to be loud about your beliefs and about your point of view in life. My little one is a Moon in Sagittarius and he lets you know what he wants him like he has no filter.
Yeah.
And yeah, so do you have a lot of water in your chart or earth?
You know what? My chart is mostly a mix of fire and air. Um,
Okay,
which
okay.
is interesting, I thought. It made sense because I can be I try to cool my temper as much as I can because it's like if you're a bad fire and then the air just woof,
Air
just
is feeding that fire.
um
That makes sense.
so but you know it's I don't know where I don't know where I get that shy part of me, but it's weird. It's like when I have to turn on my extroverted self, I do it very well. Like I've
Okay.
been on stages. I used to host these programs with friends and just moving around the room, I'm quiet. I may see a person, hey, how you doing? Da, da, da. But then when it's my time to get on the stage, then boom, I'm on. And when
Yeah.
I'm on the stage, everybody's like, oh my God, like that was amazing. You just, it's just was so natural for you and all these things. And then once I'm off the stage, I'm right back to, hey, how you doing? Like
You know
whispers.
what? You just reminded me that's a Leo trait, actually. A lot of people think they're very like per- performance because they're the fifth house, which is the stage. And so they're great. A lot of Leos are actors. They're business as well, business owners. And you can see a Leo when they go up on stage, they're like they light it up. But then behind closed doors, they can be a bit more reserved. And you reminded me of that because I was like, I can do that. Like if somebody calls me and I will be that in class too, and they'll be like, oh, or they will always point me to lead. They'll be like, okay, you present. I'll be like, wait, what? I'm where you're trying to hide. Like, don't call me. And everybody, teacher, classmates, whomever in college, university, and they'll be like, no, you're presenting. I'll be like, okay. And they'll be like, what do you mean you were nervous? You look calm as like nothing. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happens to me once I'm on stage, but it's something that comes naturally to us. And I feel like that's what you're picking up on. Because you
Yeah,
said, that you're very natural when you go up on stage. Yeah.
yeah. That's it. So maybe that's well, yeah, like a Leo rising thing. I have a godmother. She's a reverend. She is a Leo. I don't know her rising or anything. Her sun sign is Leo. And
Okay.
when she would go out, everybody, oh my God, oh my God. But then I would be with her when she would come off the stage to settle down and she'll just chill out. Um, I never made that connection. I never thought about that, but that's interesting.
Yes, it is. And that's why I was saying like the rising sign is something we come to grow into. Because for me, like you said, creativity isn't just having a paintbrush or having a microphone, to sing and dance. And when I was young, I thought that that is what it was, but it can be something as simple as the way that you do business, the way that you communicate with others, the way that you do your art, the way that you create certain things, problem solve things. That in itself can be creativity as well. And so that was something that I needed to definitely grow into. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So you all listening, when you look at your rising signs, you say, I don't really get that. Know that it's something that you can grow into over time. And yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
cool. I,
absolutely. And also another thing that I do want to say is well, that's going to lead us into the next question. So maybe I'll wait for that one.
okay. Well, before we do that, I did
Yeah,
want to say too, I never thought about it either when you talked about the different planets. It's so interesting how we are really connected. like
Oh yeah.
all the planets. It's not just like us on the earth, it's there's a relationship between this entire universe. And I never quite put it together. I've looked at the charts out and I'll just see a circle
Of
or I'll see
course.
a chart like the grid, and it would just be words on paper. But listening to you, it's like, no, no, Pluto is a planet that you learned about in school, but you are connected to Pluto, you know.
Mhm.
I think they tried to take it away or something, but what
Oh
is it?
yeah. Yeah, they tried. Yes, they did. They tried to say it wasn't. But we all fought for Pluto. I was one of them. I was like, yes, he is a planet. No, like it doesn't matter. Like leave him there. Yeah, for
But it's
sure.
like, oh, it just, I can't really describe in words the way I feel it in my system right now, but it just gave me, for some reason, a different view of we are really connected more than just Earth.
Oh,
And then,
absolutely.
yeah, it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I would hear people talk about the moon and um oh, the moon is doing this. I'm feeling whatever. I was like, okay. I didn't get,
Yeah.
even though and that's the thing, you can be spiritual in one way, but
Mhm.
not have an understanding of certain things at
Oh,
the same time.
absolutely. Yeah.
So while I'm been a medium and I can connect with, people who are on the other side, like, just like that, different aspects I didn't get. But now, literally, just like the other day, we just had a full moon in Capricorn? It
Yeah,
was
I think so. Yes. I don't
full,
remember.
but it was full or new, but I know I said a couple days before, I was like, oh, this is going on, that's going on. I said, the moon is about to do something. I know the
Mhm.
movie was about to do something, and then sure enough, a couple of days later, it did. Um, so I appreciate you explaining
Oh,
all the
thank
planets
you.
and how they connect. But yeah, so I'll go to the next question so you can.
Yeah, no, no worries, no worries. I was just, I was like, should I talk about it now, or I think it applies to the next question.
Well, the next question is, what is a natal chart?
So the natal chart is literally a snapshot of the position of the planets at the moment or the exact time in which you were born. So this is your date, your time, city, and country. And that basically lets you know what type of energies you were exposed to at the time of your birth. And so it's beautiful to see because then you're able to kind of see sides of your personality. Again, I like to look at a natal chart as a guide, not something that is set in stone, not something that, oh, because my chart says I have a bad placement or a debilitated Mars or Jupiter, for example. Oh, well, then I'm always going to have like bad experiences in this. It's like, no, it just lets you know where you need to work harder in or what you need to kind of tweak, adjust, or just for you to be mindful when certain things happen. But it's not something that is like, oh, well, just because this is my chart, that's it. Like, no, you still have, availability to change things. But again, every planet has a sign correlated to that.
Mhm.
And in our chart at the time that we're born, we have that picture. And in that picture that you said that it was round, it has 12 houses. Each house belongs to a sign. And wherever the planets land, in whichever houses, like house, the first house, the second house, the third house, that says something about you and your personality. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, do you want to ask anything about that?
Um, Let me think. I mean, to me, it's pretty straightforward, and for anyone listening, um, of course, I don't know if I have that in here, but you can look up your chart to
Oh, yes.
understand and replay this part if you're like, huh, what circle? Replay
Yes.
this part, and then you'll get the explanation more. But yeah, I get it.
Yes.
I,
And the website I like to use is astro.com. and all you will need is your date, your time, and your city and country, and
Okay.
your chart will come up.
Okay. And is it what about because I feel like on my chart there may be some at least on one house that has no planets in it. Does that mean something if it's nothing in that
A lot of
house?
people a lot of people think that it's a bad thing when you don't have planets in that house, but it does still have an energy to it.
Okay.
Because let's say, for example, you're a Leo rising. So thank God that's my rising too, so I can kind of use your chart. So let's say, for example, your seventh house, which in this case will be Aquarius, doesn't have any planets. It still has the energy of Aquarius, which depending on, whether you think Uranus rules Aquarius or Saturn does, it still has that energy there. It still has that influence there. Now,
Okay.
when you have planets in a particular house, then you have to take into account the energy of the owner of that house, which will be like, let's say it's the house of Leo, and then plus the energy of the planet that's sitting there.
Okay.
So it's like, think of a salad, and it's like a bunch of little like things, toppings that you're adding to your chart.
Oh,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah.
oh, interesting. That's a
Yeah.
good visual. I never heard it that way before.
Yeah.
Do
That's how
you
I like to explain it.
do you offer like natal chart readings to clients?
That's something that I don't offer on my website. I do it more on like on request. I really don't. I've because it takes I will be honest, it is a lot of work. Okay, it does because you have to like sit with the chart and you have to like study it, and it depends if you're doing like transits as well, or if you're looking to future or predictions, things like this, then it does take time. And so that's something that I do if someone comes in and requests it, like a lot of my friends do, or a lot of clients that have been with me for a while, they'll request it. They'll email me and they'll be like, hey, I want a natal chart reading. Then I'll be like, okay. But yeah, it's not on my website. No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good to know. And I can
Yeah.
see when you said work, I remember years ago, that was the first astrologer I went to. My mom recommended him, and I still have what he gave me. It was a very thick, he printed it out. It was a very thick
Yeah.
set, and he wrote on each page. Um, I think,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, he did tell me things about the future. But then he also just for that particular year, he gave me some information. But it was a big chunk. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I've been trying to. He did record it back then. We used a tape recorder, so
Okay.
I have a tape somewhere. I don't have a tape player though, so I haven't been able to listen to it. Um, but it was very involved, and I remember he said something significant about when I turned 36. I'm 36, so I'm patiently awaiting the reveal.
Waiting. You're like, I'm waiting for that breakthrough. What is it?
Like in maybe my early 20s or something. This was a long time ago, so here I am.
And
So,
there you go. No, but it is something that's why I do it upon request, because I have two kids and then I have my business. And so then it's one of those things that when they just come to me more in private, then I'm able to kind of be like, okay, yes, I have time or I don't. Where if I was to book it like on my website, I'll probably get like so booked, and then I'll be like, oh my God, like the turnaround will be probably like 20 days or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's just for time purposes, but it is something that requires a lot of time. And then also, like you said, also when you're writing, you're doing your notes, either you're recording it, whether it be through like a voice audio or whether it is a live session where you're looking at the chart together with your client as well.
okay. Makes sense. Okay. Well, good to know it can be requested, but it is not
Yes.
advertised per se.
Yes, yes.
To know. Okay, perfect. Well, let me see the next question I have. Okay, so I have, does the chart change or does the meaning of the chart change based on like planetary movements of the time? Like if Pluto goes retrograde or something.
Yes. So the your natal chart per se does not change. That stays the way that it is. Some people do progression charts. That's something that I personally don't do, but there are astrologers that do that. So they will see the progression of your sun. And
Oh,
then so
okay.
you were born as a Libra, and then down the line, your sun, then you'll be a Taurus or something like that. I'm not very
Oh,
familiar with that, so I'm not going to talk very much about it because I don't know much about it. But I just that is a thing. Okay, that is something that astrologers do, and they're amazing at it. But um, I don't do that. That's someone like the one that you're born with that doesn't change.
mm-hmm.
Um, but when it comes to the transit, so what's happening astrologically now today, for example, that Pluto went into Aquarius, it does affect your energy because it also is an influence. So anything that is happening right now with the planet will influence your energy, your things depending on the house that it's in. It can affect your work, it can affect your relationships, your money, or maybe when it comes to your health. So it does. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. And I've heard people say things like back to the moon. Like this,
Yes.
it's a full moon in Gemini. Then people will say, if your sun is in Gemini, then really pay attention to whatever energies
Hmm.
they're explaining. I hope
Yes,
that
because it will hit a personal planet.
okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it is. So, for example, if it's a moon in Leo, then it's going to affect you a lot because let's say your sun is there or your rising, then that will have an effect on you. That moon will be in your rising sign. So
Very
that's why there's an influence with what's going on currently. Yes, there is. But your natal chart per se, like that snapshot of the
mhm.
planets, that doesn't change. No.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Good to know. And that
The
progression,
progression chart, yeah.
I've never heard of that. I may look into that. That's very interesting.
Yes, you
Um,
should. I don't know much about it, but it's the little bit that I have learned, it's very interesting. It's
yeah.
very interesting. Yeah.
I could almost see that in the sense of like someone who maybe was a complete a-hole in their 20s, and then they have these experiences in life, and then they get in their 30s or 40s, and then they transform, and then now
Mm.
they are those humanitarians saving the whales, loving everybody, you know.
Yes.
So maybe they express a certain way at one point, and then they become, they evolve and change. So
Yeah.
they express a different
A
aspect.
different side. That's what I was gonna tell you. Like because of the progression, it's making me think of like your soul evolution. And
Mhm.
so that in itself is very interesting. And I'm like, that makes sense because we do evolve as human beings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to learn about it too, but I don't know much about it. So I'm like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So just know you guys, I don't know much about it. So I'm just, um, but it's very interesting. It is.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, and then too, I always say this, we are humans, but we are spirit. And so we can connect into different energies at different times, like even though I don't have a lot of water in my chart, you would think that I did at certain moments because I can cry at almost anything. I can be very emotional, like when I was thinking about the connection to all the planets, it's like, oh, my heart, we're all connected. Like,
Yeah.
I really felt like crying, but I was like, I'm not doing it. Keep it together, Diana. So it's like, even though we have all of these things, we can still tune into certain vibrations, or really link up to them, even though it may not be on the chart, that we were born with.
And the,
So,
the thing here is, and I do want to clarify that in the natal chart, so the circle, how you called it, um, we all have um water. All the elements are there. It's just
Mhm.
sometimes we don't have the personal plan. We don't have planets. So, for example, we might not have Jupiter or Saturn and no water sign, but we still have water. For example, you're a Leo rising. So your water houses are the fourth house, the eighth house, and the 12th house. Yeah. Those will be where
Oh.
you're gonna be more in touch with your feelings. So when it comes to the fourth house, more of your internal self. You keep it to yourself. See, you hide it. That's the house of the moon. You hide
Mhm.
it and you keep it, or you're very emotional when it comes to your family life, your home life, that which
Mhm.
is near and dear to you. The eighth house is marriage life. So you might have been someone very private to that, or that might have been a very emotional thing for you.
Mhm.
Or when you go through, death and rebirth, things like this. Then we're going to your 12th house because as a Leo rising, that's Cancer. It's Cancer
Oh.
energy. So you have
Oh.
that there. That is the element that rules your 12th house. So you see how you still have those elements there. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. I mean, I'm telling you, I will my brother sent me a video earlier of a club that he opened in Colombia, and he just showed me the finished product, and I was they have a glass door at the entryway, and I just, like, fell apart. It's like it's a glass door, and someone opened the door, and there were people there sitting in chairs, and I was, like, just so emotional, and it was struck it was the glass doors. I said, "Oh my god, there are glass doors at the entry," and I just melted, like, I just cried, so, okay, that makes sense. Thank you for explaining that to me.
You're welcome. So we all have elements there. It's more, I think, easier for us to identify that when we have personal planets. So let's say, for example, you have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, all in water, then you'll be like, okay, no, yes, I am more of an emotional person, or people will be able to see that more from you. But if we have like other signs there, then we have that element come out, but we still have every element in our natal chart.
Okay. Hmm, this is why you're here. I thank you so much for explaining that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see what next question. Let's see. Oh, okay. How can a professional help with reading a chart versus pulling one online? Like maybe the benefits or pros and cons of both options.
I love that question. Um, First of all, I'm going to start off with pulling one ourselves, right? I think all of us have done that. I think before we even go to see a professional, I think all of us were diving deep in there, looking at our chart. I think it's great for learning purposes. I think it's fantastic. I always encourage people to do so, to go and pull a chart for yourself and kind of see, what piques your interest, and try to do as much research as you can if you're into that, or for basic purposes, just for you to know to be like, I know my rising sign, my moon sign, and my sun sign, which is what everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to seek a professional, with a professional, it's amazing because you're able to see different aspects, things you cannot interpret. So, how does the planets communicate with each other? Are they in conjunction? Are they squaring? Are they trining? Um, you can see, what is one, because see, when we're pulling for ourselves and we're learning for ourselves, we can just automatically go based on like, okay, well, my son is in the third house, so that makes me an amazing communicator. But that's about it. Where a professional can kind of be like, yes, but you know, this house or this planet is making aspects to the sun. Therefore, this is going to tell you this about the sun and how it's going to, and your sun being there is going to aspect this house and this house. And so, therefore, that tells you something else. You can also do that for with a professional of like your relationships. When are you going to be a mother? What career should you go into, or things like that. They can answer bigger questions with more substance and more clarity as well. Because let's be honest, pulling one for ourselves, unless you yourself are an astrologer, then, even then, because sometimes, getting a different perspective is always welcome. At least in my opinion, I always think it's great to seek a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, what when you said that, like, I thought about the chart because I've only been to that one professional in my
Yeah.
life, and I remember he said, I want to say it was my fifth house that had a lot going on in it, I believe it was the fifth house, and he said something about he saw me having 3 children, and I keep saying, "Boy, we should get, kinda started with this at this point," like, thinking it pregnant. But when I've looked online, looked up charts on different platforms, I've never saw anything that said anything about, um, something that specific about the number of children that I will have,
Yeah.
or, I have seen some things about potential, professions that I may do, but, like, something that specific, I've only gotten that with him. And
Mm.
then he also, gave me information, regarding my relationship to my mother.
Oh,
Uh, so it is I think it is a good investment to go to someone professional because
absolutely.
it's very, not that it's bad, but it can be fairly specific, but online is fairly general as well because they, make paragraphs that many people can relate to, but
Of
we are
course.
all so unique and have such, varied experiences in life that, having a professional definitely gives a,
It's
um
a it's a great generic point to start. Anything online is a great starting point.
yeah,
But like you said, you got to take into account the other houses, the other planets, what's sitting next to that planet in your third house, fourth house. You know, that's something that a professional can assist you with.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
cool.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. So I
Thank
have one more
you.
question.
Yes.
All right, here we go. This is a
What is
long
that question?
one.
Tell me.
If a person feels stagnant in a certain area, would it be beneficial to look at their natal chart or maybe what's going on with the moon or other planets or maybe a combination? Um, so like if I'm like my money, I'm struggling with this. Should I look at my chart and say, oh, it's your Gemini in the fifth house is above the the Leo, the Jupiter or something? That was really bad. I'm trying to get
It's okay, no worries.
pretty much know nothing about this, but I'm trying to.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm not a professional either. Like it's just based on my observations and the natal charts that I've done, but I don't call myself a professional, so don't worry. Um, but I totally get what you're saying. And so my first question would be like, let's say it's for me, right? And I'm trying to figure this out. Is it something that you've always been doing well financially? And it's like all of a sudden, months from now or a couple of days from now, there was a shift. Then I'll be like, okay, look at the transits. Maybe there's a transit, maybe there's a planet going over one of your money houses, and it's creating some type of influence in your finances. Now, if this is something that you have, I want to say a reoccurring challenge, then I would look at the natal chart. You can look at both to be, completely real with you. Look at both because it can be either, like I said, certain planets can be, debilitated. They could be squaring other planets to that planet. And so, it's always good to look at how are the planets communicating with each other from your natal chart as well as the transits that are going on. So is Saturn going over your money house? In that case, there's gonna be restrictions there, delays, or needing you to be more structured with your finances. Or Saturn might be telling you, like, yeah, budget better because this is what happens when you don't kind of
Mm,
energy. So you can look at both. Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
okay, good to know. You
Yeah.
answered that so well. I was like, this is such a complicated question. And
No, but kind of, I mean, it can be depending. That's how I was like, depending on, are we asking like on a personal, like, do you like saying like, okay, just me, JJ, I'm having this, like, should I look towards a professional or should I look towards trying to figure out on my own? Is that what we're doing? Or I don't know.
yeah, like if I'm stagnant, like you mentioned the transits.
Mhm.
which I believe the transits would be like how the planets are moving in that moment or the
Yeah, in the
position.
current time. Yes, the position that they're currently in, the sign that they're currently in.
Okay. So, like, is it the influence if it's something that happens all of a sudden? Like, the transits may give a better view of what's been going on in the past month versus if for the past 25 years you've had this same struggle with this same thing. Maybe looking at the chart and you said, and also looking at the transits, but looking at the chart to get a maybe a little bit of insight into the
Absolutely. If you're someone who is familiar with astrology and you're like, okay, I can kind of figure this out on my own, then you can look at the current transits. But if you're someone that you're like, I have no idea, I would better outsource to someone to read my chart, then you can do that as well.
okay, cool. Well, this has been great. This was a
Thank
lot of
you.
information. We definitely should do another
Yes, we
episode.
should.
Uh,
Yes, we should.
yeah,
I would like
even
to do a medium one. I don't know if I can like recommend you a theme, but I think I want to do a medium one because I think we can talk a lot like how we can like differentiate. How does mediumship work for you?
for like you're asking right now, how does it work for me?
No, like we can do
Episode.
episode. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For
That
sure.
way we can be like, we can share and be like, oh, you know what? What works for me is this, or like, kind of like teaching them like mediumship can look differently.
Oh, girl, let me write that down right now.
I think that'd be
Absolutely.
really cool. Because you know how
Yeah.
everybody always says, "Oh, if I'm a medium, I gotta look a certain way," or people they do or they do this, or the mediumship's gotta look a certain process to it or something like that. But I think if we were to able to be like, "Oh, well, for you, Diana, it looks like this, and for JJ, it looks like this," like you know, I think it's a great way to teach. Yeah.
I would love that because you're right. People, I know when I walk down the street, nobody's thinking that girl is a medium. But if I
For
had
sure.
on like, scarves wrapped around my head and carried a crystal ball every day,
Yeah,
somebody
they will make that assumption, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
for
you
sure.
can have someone dressed like that and they may not be a medium, even if they say they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah, of course. Of course.
the yes, I yeah, totally.
That
I
would be
will look
great.
into that for sure.
Yeah,
So we
that would be
that
great.
yeah. Keep it rolling, keep it rolling.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm going to close this out. I do want to ask you a question after, but to
Yes.
my listeners, thank you again for listening. I appreciate you all. There was a lot of information in this episode. If you need to replay it, make some notes, please do that. You can reach out to me if you have questions. And then JJ, could you please share how people can reach you if they want to book with you or
Yes. I am JJ Constellation, one word on YouTube, Instagram. My website is JJ, so JJSconstellation.com. You can DM me or email me. That is the way you can contact me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So you all take care. And I always say be you, embrace you, and love you. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.